Ahsoka has finally premiered on Disney Plus, and today we are going to go over the negatives, the positives, and honestly, some of the utter bullshit surrounding this series and the discussion around this series. But first of all, if you tried to tune into the Ahsoka premiere livestream that I did through Patreon, you saw that YouTube did take down the stream. Now, I knew there was a chance of this happening, but I was hoping to avoid it by keeping the stream unlisted, and yeah, unfortunately I did get a copyright warning. Not a strike, thank God, but a warning, so I won't be attempting that again. Instead, we'll just be sticking to the review format, at least for YouTube. Now, I'm still going to do the live reactions, I'm going to record the live reactions, and then I'm going to upload the live reactions as a video exclusive to Patreon. So if you want to get that exclusive content, as well as early access to videos that are released on YouTube later, go check out the Patreon. The link to that is down in the description box down below. It's only $3 a month. That's what, a cup of coffee? You guys can afford that. Very easy, and you're going to get access to exclusive content like live reactions to things like Ahsoka. So that's what we're going to do going, from here on out. And I am going to have the live reaction to Ahsoka episodes 1 and episode 2 on Patreon as well. Those should actually probably be on Patreon by the time that this video is uploaded onto YouTube. So go check out the Patreon. Again, it's only $3 a month. Link to that is in the description box down below. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the review for Ahsoka episodes 1 and 2. Now, I want to put something into context here. I had canceled my Disney Plus subscription about 6 months ago because of a lot of the bull crap that Disney as a company was pulling, and also because the quality of their movies had been going down fast. Obviously, we all have our problems with the Star Wars sequel trilogy, but also Disney's animation has been going down in quality. I'm looking at you, Strange World. The MCU is absolutely tanked in quality. Even Pixar, which for the longest was a safe bet, has been going downhill. Look at Lightyear just to prove that point. And I just didn't see it worth it to pay for Disney Plus anymore. Then came Ahsoka. And Ahsoka is not only one of my favorite characters in the entire Star Wars franchise, but because this is a Dave Filoni series, I knew that I would be renewing my subscription to Disney Plus just for this show alone. And it was well worth it, very well worth it. The Ahsoka premiere episodes 1 and 2 demonstrate once again why Dave Filoni should be in charge of all things creative at Lucasfilm. Guys, Dave Filoni is the Padawan of George Lucas. He gets what Lucas was trying to do with the universe, with the characters. He loves this universe, he loves the story, he respects the franchise and the fans, and he does not disappoint with Ahsoka. I knew that this series was going to be at least decent going into it because Ahsoka, the character, is Dave Filoni's baby. Alright, he made that character and he absolutely loves her. I knew he would not do anything to tarnish her, but I had no idea that this series would be the best Star Wars that I have seen in a very, very long time. So far, Ahsoka has been better than the sequels, and honestly, I think this is the best Disney Plus Star Wars so far. Easily the best premiere of a Disney Plus Star Wars show, absolutely. Now, before we get into spoilers, I do want to address a question that people have been asking about this show. What do people need to see before watching Ahsoka? And I'm going to tell you right now, obviously you need to see the movies. Duh. That's true for any Star Wars content. But you also need to see the Clone Wars series, and you need to especially see Rebels. Ahsoka, I'm telling you right now, is straight up a sequel to Rebels. I'm not going to spoil the ending of Rebels because we aren't in the spoiler section yet, but Rebels did end on a cliffhanger, and the driving plot of Ahsoka is all about picking up on that cliffhanger ending. Rebels ends before A New Hope, and Ahsoka takes place, I think they said 7 years after Return of the Jedi, but it is focused on resolving that cliffhanger ending of Rebels. And for me, that's a good thing. That's a very good thing because I love Rebels. I think it's one of the few good things that Disney has done with Star Wars. So if you like Rebels, you will like Ahsoka. And I implore you, please watch Rebels before watching Ahsoka. You should also watch the Clone Wars too, but Rebels is an absolute must watch. to really understand what is going on with Ahsoka. All right. So that being said, Ahsoka, to sum it up, is very, 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 very good. You should definitely go check it out. Go watch it. It is a fantastic series so far. And it's some of the best Star Wars content that I've seen in a very long time. It looks like Star Wars. It feels like Star Wars. Go check it out. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into the spoilers for these 2 episodes. And I'm going to give you my overall thoughts on this series thus far. And I also want to address some of the criticism that I have seen from the fandom and why I think a lot of it is honestly some grifting bullshit. So we are now in spoiler territory. If you haven't seen Ahsoka episodes 1 and 2, go see them and then come back for this section of the review. As I said before, the driving factor of this plot is picking up on the cliffhanger ending of Rebels. That is to say, it's all about finding Ezra Bridger and Grand Admiral Thrawn after they vanished in the Rebels finale. We have the villains, Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, and before I go any further, let me talk about Baylan Skoll real quick, the actor who plays Baylan Skoll, who is Ray Stevenson. Ray Stevenson did pass away after recording his scenes for season 1 of Ahsoka, assuming that it's going to get multiple seasons. But the actor for Baylan did pass away, unfortunately, Ray Stevenson, so rest in peace to him. Prayers and thoughts go out to his family. But yeah, the villains of Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati are teaming up with a Night Sister, which if you've seen the Clone Wars, you know all about the Night Sisters. They're teaming up with a Night Sister named Morgan Elsbeth. Now, I did a video where I speculated that Baylan and Shin are in fact a canon version of the Imperial Knights from Star Wars Legends material, wherein that just like the Imperial Knights from Legends material, they are not necessarily Sith, but they are Force users who believe in imperialism and believe that having an empire is the best form of government for the galaxy, which is why I believe they are looking for Grand Admiral Thrawn. And so to find Thrawn, they have to locate a map that leads to his location. Ahsoka finds the map and she can't decode it and goes to Hera Syndulla from Rebels for help. Hera points her in the direction of Sabine Wren, who we know from the trailers is Force sensitive and did training under Ahsoka for a time at some point between the end of Rebels and the time period that the Ahsoka series takes place in. For whatever reason, their relationship as Master and Padawan fell apart. We don't know why, but I'm sure we're going to probably get a flashback later in the season. So Sabine and Ahsoka, they have this very icy relationship at this point. Sabine does end up taking the map and she does unlock it, but before she can delve into the map any further, she is attacked by Shin Hati, and we end up getting a pretty epic duel that results in Sabine being stabbed and Hati taking the map for herself, thus bringing an end to episode 1. Episode 2 picks up with Morgan, Baylan, and Hati taking the map to these ancient ruins where it was revealed that the map leads the way to another galaxy and that the ruins themselves, and presumably the map, were constructed by a civilization from this other galaxy. And I just gotta say, this right here got me hyped, alright? We have never seen Star Wars go outside of the main galaxy on screen. Now, it has happened in Legends, it has happened in comic books and novels. There was a couple of droid races in Legends that were from another galaxy, but of course the most well-known extragalactic threat was hands down the Yuuzhan Vong. The Yuuzhan Vong were a threat from another galaxy who were resistant to the Force and used these biological-based technology rather than machines. They were a huge threat in Legends, so much so that it was revealed that Palpatine constructed the Empire and the Death Star because he knew the Yuuzhan Vong were coming and he was preparing to combat them when they tried to invade the main Star Wars galaxy. Now, does that mean that the galaxy that Thrawn and Ezra ended up in is the Yuuzhan Vong galaxy? Not necessarily, and I'm not getting my hopes up that we're going to see the Vaughn, but can you imagine if Thrawn is attempting to return to the main galaxy with an army of Yuuzhan Vong on his side? That would be a huge departure from Legends now, so I'm not really sure if they're going to go that route. It may end up being that Thrawn is actually protecting the main galaxy from the Yuuzhan Vong. That kind of seems to be a little bit more likely because the Vaughn tried to ravage the Star Wars galaxy in Legends, so I don't think Thrawn would team up with them, which makes me doubt that they are going to explore the Yuuzhan Vong in Ahsoka. I'm not expecting to see them, but maybe this could be a setup for the Vaughn to be a threat in the future. Maybe they could be the villains of the Rey Solo film that is in the works. Maybe the Yuuzhan Vaughn are actually, between the time of Ahsoka and, post the sequel trilogy, like all throughout that 30-year time period or whatever. The Yuuzhan Vaughn are traveling from their home galaxy to the Star Wars galaxy, and they finally arrive post the Rise of Skywalker, and now the new Jedi Order has to fight the Yuuzhan Vaughn. Maybe that's what they're setting up here, alright? That would be kind of cool, I'm not gonna lie. So we'll just have to wait and see. But am I gonna get my hopes up that we're gonna see the Yuuzhan Vaughn and Ahsoka? No, but if there is some setup here for it, that would get me very, very excited, because I do think the Vaughn need to enter the Star Wars canon at some point. They're just too awesome of a villain, too awesome of a threat to not be included at some point. So, Sabine does survive her injury from episode 1. She's confined to a hospital for a bit, while Ahsoka and Hera head off to this planet where they are constructing, I think it was ships, but there is a massive device that is super top secret that Ahsoka and Hera try to acquire, but an Imperial ship escapes with it. During this whole series of events, we get our first look at what seems to be a new Inquisitor named Merrick. It could be Galen Merrick, maybe from The Force Unleashed. Probably not. The name is probably just an Easter egg. It sounds similar. It's not spelled the same way, but it sounds similar. Some have speculated this may be Ezra. I mean, it could be, but honestly, I haven't given it much thought, and I honestly think it could just turn out to be another random fallen Jedi. But what I would love to see is the return of Barriss Offee. Now, in the Clone Wars, Barriss and Ahsoka were friends, but Barriss disagreed with the Jedi joining the war, believed that they were falling away from the light, and she ended up bombing the Jedi Temple and then framed Ahsoka for it. And as far as I know, Barriss Offee's fate is unknown. She could still be alive. We don't know if she perished in Order 66. I kind of doubt that she did, to be honest with you. I think it would make a lot of sense for her to return in this series and to have some kind of resolution with Ahsoka. Now, I don't think that Merrick is Barriss Offee necessarily. Clearly, he looks to be male, not female. But I do want Barriss to return at some point in this series. I think it honestly makes a lot of sense, along with Anakin showing up as a Force ghost, because there's a lot of relationships and a lot of characters that Ahsoka needs to have some kind of resolution with. As far as Marek or however they're going to pronounce his name goes, in all honesty, I think he's just a new character. Sometimes I think that not just Star Wars fans, but any fandom will always try and find mystery where there really is none. I think he's just a brand new character, in all honesty. So moving on, Hera is shocked that the construction workers and the head of the construction group are still loyal to the Empire, but Ahsoka reveals that this has nothing to do with loyalty and everything to do with greed. So yes, the profit-driven capitalist machine keeps going. I wish that this was something that this era of Star Wars in particular would address, which is the corrupt relationship between government and corporations, because that is one of the major factors in the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire. If the New Republic makes the same mistakes as the old, it will end up in the same type of disaster. I wish that this was the approach that the sequels and the post-Return of the Jedi stories would take when addressing its politics, correcting the errors of the Old Republic so that the New Republic doesn't repeat history. But again, we're seeing this, corrupt, capitalist, just sick relationship between government and corporations. Like, it's not good. It's not good, and it's repeating the mistakes of the Old Republic. And I wish that we would delve a little bit more into that. I doubt we're going to delve into that in this series, but I wish it would have been something that the sequel trilogy would have addressed, in all honesty. I don't think that this is a series to address it. Maybe we'll see it later on if they ever do more of a, politically themed Star Wars show, which I guess Andor is kind of like that. But, something in the post-Return of the Jedi era, I would really like to see that delved into. Maybe a Leia show. That would be a good spot to do it, considering she's very involved in politics. But anyways, the ship does escape with the component, but not before Chopper, the MVP droid of Rebels, places a tracking device on it. And we see the component is a piece of a mechanism known as the Eye of Sion, and it will lead the villains to this new galaxy where Thrawn and presumably Ezra are located. So of course, Sabine and Ahsoka do end up teaming up together, getting back together as master and apprentice, Lucas, and they are headed off to confront the villains, to find the villains, and prevent them from getting to Thrawn. And that wraps up episode 2 of Ahsoka. So, delving into my overall thoughts on this show, this was the best Disney Plus Star Wars premiere, hands down. This felt like Star Wars to me. The look of it was movie quality. Even small things like the transitions between scenes felt like George Lucas Star Wars. This series is the first Disney Plus Star Wars series to have an opening crawl, and it just reminded me of how genius the opening crawl is as a storytelling mechanic, because you get your background information, your setup for the story, without needing a bunch of exposition in the early opening scenes. That way we could just jump right into the action, and I love it. As a fan of Ahsoka, a fan of the Clone Wars and Rebels, I was happy to see these characters come back, and the live action actors, I think, play them very, very well. The villains are already extremely captivating, and I cannot wait to see Thrawn enter the story. Even in Legends, Thrawn was one of the best villains Star Wars has ever produced. The fact that we are heading to another galaxy opens up so many storytelling possibilities, and what I love about this is that they can do whatever they want in this galaxy without it interfering with the events in the main Star Wars galaxy, so they don't have to keep track of the canon and be, bound by the timeline as much. And I think that is some really good stuff. I can't wait to see what Dave Filoni does with this other galaxy. So now that we got all the positives out of the way, I do want to address some of the criticism that I have seen on YouTube and other social media, because I feel like a lot of the criticism is unwarranted and is being used to get views and clicks. It's hating on the series for honestly no real reason. What you have to realize something about the state of the Star Wars fandom is that a lot of YouTube channels were born and got big during The Last Jedi and the Rise of Skywalker era, where there was a lot of hate for Star Wars, and honestly with good reason, because episodes 8 and episodes 9 were terrible movies, and Disney has been really demeaning and arrogant when it comes to the fandom, especially the fans of the franchise before Disney bought it from George. And you guys know I have been super critical of Disney Star Wars. I have a video, one of the most viewed videos on my channel, is talking about which is worse, The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker. So I will always call out when a franchise is doing something wrong, because I love that franchise. If I didn't love Star Wars, I wouldn't be so critical of it, because I want it to succeed. I want it to be good. At the same time, when Star Wars does something right, even if it's done under the umbrella of Disney, I'm going to give it praise for that. And Ahsoka is doing a lot of stuff right. But some channels are just not like that. There are channels that were built and thrive on hating Disney and hating Disney Star Wars, so that even when the franchise does something good, even when Disney does something good, even though that is a rarity today, they can't give any credit for it because it would go against what their channel is based on, what the fans of their channels watch them for. And so now they've trapped themselves into a corner where they pretty much have to create problems where there honestly are none, or at least very, very few, for the sake of their business model. And I get that. I can, respect the grind, but at the same time, it's also very disingenuous, and I don't want my channel to just become a hater channel. I want it to just be honest criticism and honest review. That's what I want this channel to be, and that can either be good or it can be bad. And I'm not going to bullshit you guys. Now, a couple of the things that I can criticize these 2 episodes for are, number 1, the pacing was a little slow. I didn't really mind it all that much, but I can see how some people may have a problem with it. The other thing was the scene where Sabine is on the air bike and you have this alien rock music playing. That scene didn't feel very Star Wars to me and kind of felt out of place, but given the type of character Sabine is, honestly, it's fine. I can live with it. The other problem, and probably my biggest issue, is Sabine being stabbed and recovering so quickly. Qui-Gon Jinn died from a lightsaber stab by Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace, so seeing Sabine recover this quickly from a similar wound is honestly a little bit jarring. Now, you can explain this away, by saying, this show takes place almost 40 years after The Phantom Menace, so maybe medical technology has improved to where a wound like that isn't fatal. I mean, it's not a huge problem, but it is probably the biggest flaw in these episodes for sure. Now, some of the criticism that I've heard from other reviews, which I think are utter bullshit arguments, is first of all, the map leading to Thrawn. People have complained about this being a MacGuffin, and yeah, it is a MacGuffin, but I swear, man, some people really have no comprehension of creative writing and storytelling. Look, a MacGuffin is not in and of itself a bad thing, okay? A bad MacGuffin, for example, would be the Sith dagger in Episode 9, because it was used to locate the holocron, or whatever it was, by lining it up with some random piece of the destroyed second Death Star. I mean, how could they have designed an ancient Sith dagger to line up with the ruins of a space station at just the precise point on the planet it crashed on? And it's dumb. It's just really, really dumb. But we're not here to criticize the sequels. Again, I have a whole video on that topic that you can check out if you want to after watching this video. But in a story, you sometimes need certain conveniences, and I guess if you want to call them contrivances, MacGuffins, to move the plot along. It's a necessary evil of storytelling. Something has to happen, or something has to be the key to unlocking the next part of the story, or else you don't have something to continue the story with. There is a right way to do it, and there is a wrong way to do it, and I don't see the issue with this map as far as how it's used and what it is. We know that Thrawn is in another galaxy. We know that the map was left behind by a civilization from this other galaxy. I think people may have confused that Thrawn left the map behind, and I don't think that was ever said in the episodes. It wasn't Thrawn, it was the mysterious ancient civilization from this other galaxy who left the map behind, left ruins behind, that would lead people from the main galaxy to their original home galaxy. Now, how did the villains find out that Thrawn is in this other galaxy? We don't know that yet, but I'm sure that's going to be explained. Again, you cannot judge everything from just the first 2 episodes. Let's wait and see how this plays out in the series. How the villains found out that Thrawn is in this other galaxy, we don't know yet. I'm sure we're going to find out later. But so far, this is all making sense to me. I don't see the issue here. Now, yes, is it a very similar plot point to Episode 7, where they were looking for the map to Luke Skywalker? Absolutely. Is that kind of lazy? Yeah, a little bit. But I think the payoff is going to be better when we find Thrawn as compared to finding Luke, as we all know how much of a disappointment Luke was in the sequels. I don't think Filoni is going to end up making Thrawn a disappointment. I don't see that happening. The other major complaint that I've heard from people that I think is just utterly ridiculous is the use of magic by Morgan Elsbeth. People who are making a fuss about this, saying, oh, magic doesn't belong in Star Wars, magic has never been a part of Star Wars. Clearly those people have not seen anything outside of the films. They probably haven't even seen Clone Wars, because there is a branch of Force abilities that are magic in nature. The Night Sisters use magic. They were a major part of the Clone Wars series. The former leader of the Night Sisters, Mother Talzin, was someone that Darth Sidious feared immensely. It was Night Sister magic that healed Darth Maul and restored his sanity in the Clone Wars. Even the Sith have a form of magic known as Sith alchemy and Sith sorcery. Darth Bane's apprentice, Darth Zana, was a master of Sith sorcery. So anyone complaining about there being magic in Ahsoka and how it doesn't belong in Star Wars clearly are talking out of their ass. Magic has always been an aspect of the Force going back for a long time, back in the Lucas pre-Disney era. So I don't know where this complaint is coming from, other than people that aren't very educated on the franchise and the lore of the franchise, whether it be Disney material or whether it be Legend / George Lucas era material, because magic has always been an aspect of the Force. It's not the main part of the Force, but there is a branch of Force techniques that is known as magic. Finally, for those that are criticizing this show for requiring its audience to have seen Rebels and Clone Wars, get over it. That's like criticizing Return of the Jedi for expecting you to have seen episodes 4 and 5. This is a show clearly meant for fans of Rebels and Clone Wars, okay? It is clearly meant to be a continuation of the stories in those series. If the show required you to read a novel or a comic, then yeah, you would have a reason to criticize it for that. Just like how I criticize Episode 9 for making fans read the novelization of that movie to understand why Palpatine is back. But because Rebels, Clone Wars, and Ahsoka are all a part of the same medium, medium, which is on-screen TV/streaming series, it is fair to ask the viewers to catch up on Rebels and Clone Wars to understand Ahsoka. And this is a series made for fans of those series, of those stories. Anyone who sees an issue with that, I just have to ask, what is it that you want? A plot of the week story where each show and each episode is its own self-contained story? I mean, there are shows that do that and it works fine for certain things, but Star Wars is a large and expansive universe and you can't keep everything self-contained. That's just not how the story is written. That's not how the world in Star Wars is designed. You have to be willing to immerse yourself in that world if you want to be a fan. I'm sorry that that's the case, but it is what it is. And so all of that being said, I will end the review with this question. What is it that the haters of Ahsoka want from Star Wars? I mean, this show is good stuff. This is really, really good stuff. What else do you want? I think there are honestly some people on this platform, and they're mostly middle-aged to older fans who just want the original trilogy. They don't want any expansion. They just want what they had when they were kids. Well, I'm sorry, but if you allow a franchise to remain in the past like that, it will become stagnant and it will die. The franchise has to expand and tell more stories. And that doesn't mean killing the past like Disney tried to do in the sequels. No, you can tell new stories while at the same time honoring what came before. Filoni loves these characters, he loves this universe and everything that George built, and I want to see what new stories he comes up with because I know he's going to give us new stories while at the same time honoring everything that George built. With that being said, I am looking forward to episode 3 and the rest of Ahsoka, and I will see you guys for the next review. Until then, you guys know what to do. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and consider joining the Patreon for early access to videos and some exclusive content, including the live reactions to Ahsoka episodes. And check out my other channels and social media, linked down below as well. Until the next one, this is JeskerJames with a Z, signing out.